Hi, I'm Naomi Hall, and I'd like to welcome you to our virtual summit on stress management for educators. My whole goal is to give you powerful steps that you can take to reduce your stress so that you can increase your quality time for yourself and for your family. So today I have with me Brandie Rosen, who has spent 27 years in education as a teacher, an administrator, a teacher mentor, and a course creator. She has built district-wide programs and she's trained and mentored thousands of teachers. So she knows what you're going through. She has been in it. She's worked with students with and without disabilities from preschool through high school, and she provides training in behavior, classroom management, and special education and everything IEP related. So her company, Teaching Untangled, creates online courses in classroom management, special education, and behavior management. So Brandie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. I love having teachers on here who have been in the trenches and have experienced what's going on. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey with burnout and coming back to really loving your job again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's kind of a lifelong cycle, I think that it ebbs and flows some, and that's really important for teachers to hear that. I think with social media, with a lot out there, it seems like everybody is happy all the time and just living their best life, and that they never have a stressful day ever. And so I think that leaves teachers feel, I know it did for me, left me feeling like I must be doing something wrong. I'm not good enough. Why don't I feel like this every day? And so it took a lot. It took talking to teachers a lot and understanding that we're all kind of in the same space. It took me understanding kind of what these last 3 or 4 years were like for all of us as educators and people and parents, and just how much we were carrying and how hard that was. And then ultimately, I think, as kind of silly as it sounds, is just by giving myself a little bit of a break and understanding, and I mean a break, not physically not teaching, but a break, like it's okay if you're feeling a little low. It's okay if this doesn't feel exactly the same, because it wasn't exactly the same. It was really hard. And so I had to give myself just a little bit of room to work through it. And then the other piece that was really important for me was just really connecting with other teachers who were coming from a more positive place, because I think that we can slip through the cycle of really pretty strong negativity in education. There's always going to be so much we can complain about and not feel supported in. And so I think that for me, it was a little bit of a slippery slope. Like if I was with people that were talking about that a lot, then I was feeling that more. And so I just made a shift to, spending more time and connecting with people who were, though they were struggling, they were excited about seeing what was next. And so that's, for me, that was a little bit of what helped me get to that next stage.
I love how you put that, struggling but excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
Like you can have both.
Right. Right. And I think as educators, we're like, super people, right? And everybody just expects us, if this is what we do. We just jump in, we adjust, we adapt, and we don't have any feelings about it. And when I talk to teachers, I'm like, you're not a robot, you're a human being. So there's going to be good days and bad days, and that's okay. That's what makes you who you are as an educator.
So we've talked a lot in these interviews about kind of outside of the classroom, personal steps that teachers can take, but a lot of the stress is within the classroom. There's so much going on in there that's causing so much stress. What can teachers do within the classroom to help themselves?
Yeah, I mean, that's really where I focus my energies, because I can't do a lot for what happens outside of the classroom. And I will, talk to teachers about that and remind them, like, we are not in the families' homes. We can't make a lot of changes about what's going on, but what we can do is put the supports in place for our classroom so that it does run less, it runs better, and it is less stressful. So some of the things that are really helpful are really kind of basic principles that sometimes I think we forget or we don't give enough importance to. So, one of the best things that you can do, especially now where we are seeing so much more student behavior in the classroom, which is very overwhelming and stressful, is really putting those strong procedures and behavior systems in place on day one, and and understanding that will take a while to get in place. But that if you put the time in at the beginning, then we don't hit as much of the bumps and bruises as we move along. And so a lot of the teachers that I support, the best, tip I can say is like, let's go back a little bit. Let's slow down and go back. And what that means is, do the kids know exactly what it looks like to you for them to be working independently? Do the kids have the skills to problem solve without coming up to you 1,000 times? Do the kids, understand that when they're transitioning between, classrooms, this is what you expect of them? And not only do they understand it, but like, have they mastered that skill? And so sometimes it just takes like taking some steps back to be able to move forward. And one of the most powerful, kind of tools I work with teachers on is I have them identify, just like on a piece of paper, I say, list everything that's causing you stress in your classroom, everything, like everything. And they always laugh and they're like, really, do you have more paper? And I'm like, yes, everything. And so they'll list out everything that they can think of. And sometimes that takes multiple tries, because then they're like, oh, I forgot about that, or, oh, I forgot about that. And then what we do is we prioritize. And this is what I think as teachers, we don't give ourselves enough permission to do. So there might be 50 things on that page that are causing them stress. Well, we cannot change 50 things at one time. We cannot manage that. That is too much. And that's what causes the overwhelm, is like, we have so much to do. We're never going to change this. And this is happening in this student. And that's what gets us. Right. And so, what we do is we prioritize and we look at the top 3 things, and then we push the others aside. And then teachers will always say, but I have to get to those things. I'm like, I know, but you know what? You're not getting to them now because you're overwhelmed. So let's start small. So what are the top 3 things that are causing you the most overwhelm, or really, causing the most problems? Let's focus on those. And so then we can work on those 3, and then we can add one more and add one more. And that really helps to just make it feel more manageable, because a lot of times it just doesn't.
I love that. Yeah, just that act of starting small, and also that you said, like, you're not getting those things done anyway, so let's get something done, and then we'll.
Exactly. We do that all the time, but as teachers, but we're like, but we have to do it all. I'm like, I know, but you're not anyway, so let's just get something done.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, prioritization is so important. I find that for myself, even I'm running a business, of like, okay, there are all these things that I have to do, but what has to be done today?
Right. Right. And I think giving, as a teacher, just giving yourself permission to do that, where I think in other fields, people do that all the time. They make their prioritization list, and what gets done, and they always know that there's tomorrow. But as teachers, we feel like that's not, we have students' lives in our hands and we have to do everything and it all has to be done, but it doesn't all have to be done. There are things that can wait.
Yeah. You mentioned student behavior, so I wanted to hit on that for a minute, because it's just, every time I talk to a teacher, the behaviors are getting worse and worse. And I think a lot of our staff and teachers feel like the kids are getting worse, but I'm not getting any support. Like, my administration's not supporting me. How do we address that? What can teachers do there when they're like, the behaviors are worse, but I don't have any more support, or I don't have any support?
Yeah, I mean, that's 1,000 times the most common thing that I've been, supporting teachers with in the last really 2 years. So this is how we kind of address it. The reality is that if you do not have administrative support, you don't have administrative support, right? I mean, there's only so much you can do. And I see teachers like eat themselves alive about it. Like, if they did this and if they did that, and I always say, but they're not doing that, like, that's not there. So what are you going to do right now? Does that mean that you're not going to maybe look for something else or whatever. That's not, I always say that's neither here nor there right now. Is what do you need right now to be successful and to feel like you can come back day after day. So some of it is letting go that idea or hope or expectation that something else is going to come through the door to make it better. And so the flip side of it is I'm like, when I consult with school districts, oftentimes there's one admin and there's a lot of behavior, you know what I mean? And so I see that sometimes even the best of them are trying, but they just can't get, it could be one student takes the entire day. And so, and there might be 15 of them that are taking the entire day. So everybody is sort of, filled up. And so to me, the most critical thing you can do is to look at the behavior system that you have set up in your classroom and truly, honestly evaluate if it's effective. And the question that I ask to all the teachers I work with, does this system work with your most difficult student? That's the question that you ask, because a lot of the behavior systems, most of the behavior systems and most of teachers have put in systems that, really work for those kids that don't need a lot of behavior support. It's just the reality of it. Like, even if we didn't have a behavior system in place, the kids would be fine. But we don't have full classes of those kids anymore. We just don't. So where we used to have maybe 1 or 2 kids that were challenging, we now might have 8 or 9 in one classroom. It's really, there's a lot. And so we can't, I said a lot of teachers, we're just holding on so tight with what we used to do and what used to work. And it just doesn't work anymore. And so I work with the teachers that I work with in setting up a really simple but systematic behavior system that addresses those really challenging behaviors. And the exciting part is that most general ed teachers, the first thing they say to me is, I wasn't trained in behavior. This is not my thing. Like this is not what I do. And I say, you are right. You were not trained in behavior and this was not expected. But let's work together to get you a system that feels right to you and works for those challenging behaviors. And then the other piece that I remind teachers is, well, 2 things. There's no magic answer. Like I say, I wish I could come in and tell you that all you have to do is this. But my recommendation is, if anybody's coming in and saying to you, all you have to do, don't trust that, because there is no advice when you're dealing with challenging behaviors that is all you have to do. It takes a little bit of time and it takes a little bit, but if we can look at it like we would reading or writing, where if we start to see a little improvement, even if it improves, say 15 minutes of our day or 30 minutes of our day, then we can feel good about that, because even though it's not everything, it's something. And so just like when we teach reading and we get really excited because a student recognizes another letter or can blend a few more words, they're not reading, War and Peace, but they're getting there and they're starting to make progress. So really looking at it from that point of view, and knowing that in some ways it's up to us. It's our, it's going to be most likely the majority of support is going to need to come from what we're doing in the classroom. So I think that, and most teachers that kind of make that shift and put a little bit more time into behavior than they would normally do, they start to see the results. And then they're like, oh, I can take a breath now. I don't feel on edge all the time because of this student and this student.
Yeah, that's so important, because that can create so much stress and just drain you so much.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah, I totally get that, of like, but I need this. I'm not getting this. And yeah, sometimes you just have to come to the realization of, I'm not going to get that. So what am I going to do? And we just kind of have to take control of what we can control.
Right. And I think that's where, yes, I think that people who get stuck in the belief that they're going to get something that's not available for them there, that burnout hits really, really fast, because there's just, it's not happening and it's not going to happen, but they're waiting for it. And then things get worse in their classroom. So, and like I say to teacher, it may not be maybe it's not your long-term home then, maybe this isn't the right match, but like, how do we get through this moment? How do we get through this day and this week?
Yeah. And you just said something that came up in my interview with Emily Daniels of we kind of have this expectation of, we know we work in a broken system. Like we know the system is broken, but like there's this misconception that somebody's going to come and fix it. And really it's us. Like we have to be the ones to come in and fix it. We have to make changes ourselves. And I think teachers need the permission, the freedom and the power to say, all right, it's a broken system and I'm going to do what I can in my room, in my realm.
And only what I can. It's not there, sometimes there is nothing that, is going to make it exactly the way you want it. And the one thing I forgot to say, the other piece that I think is really important when you have those really challenging classes is to give yourself permission to what I say is implement like your plan B for the day. So it's okay. And again, like I'll compare this with other jobs. It's okay if one day you say, you know what, we're going to do a game day. We're going to do this. Like, it's too tough today. Or, we all came in and it's raining and it's been raining and we can't get out of the room. Or, I am just not feeling great or like whatever, to be able to say like, today is going to be a day we're going to focus on something else. So we're not going to make it, I'm not going to try and push through this math lesson because I just know that we're not going to be able to do it today. And there's too much else going on. But it doesn't mean that we can't benefit from doing, a game day where we work on social skills and other things, you know what I mean? So like give yourself permission, just like any other job, where some days you're going to do things a little bit differently, or you're going to lighten up on some things and, focus on other things. That's okay too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, we need to take that power back into our hands.
Yeah,
and that
I totally agree.
So teachers are heading into summer. Summer there already. In my area, they've got a couple more weeks left. So what can they focus on in the summer so that they can come back stronger and walk into school with confidence in the fall?
Well, so that's always a great question too, about like how much to do over the summer and how much not to do. And it's funny because over the years, being able to work with so many different teachers, I've heard really different philosophies, right? So some teachers are like, I unplug and I don't look at anything until 2 weeks before school. Like that's the way that I make it through. And then, and there's other teachers like I was, who that would cause me more overwhelm. Like I want to work a little bit all summer long so that I can be ready. And I think it's really important that before we even get into what teachers can do, that we really give teachers permission that either of those ways is fine. So really thinking about, and I think this is one of the ways we can really help support teachers in that sort of stress and overwhelm is if for you, it makes you feel less stressed and overwhelmed to work all summer, that's okay too. I see a lot of times like teachers are shamed for that. They're like, you shouldn't work, you don't get paid for it, whatever. But if it's better for them because then they feel ready to go, that's great too. If you're the other way, that's great too. You know what I mean? So that we give teachers permission, whatever works best for you. But if you're going to do things, the first thing, this is kind of a funny thing to recommend, but this is something that I do I have a classroom management membership. And the first thing that I do with teachers is I have them come up with a self-care contract that is for the school year. Okay. And so I know that's not necessarily preparing things, but it is. And it's a pretty comprehensive contract, and and they like sign it as a law. And it's like comes up with a plan, like what time are you going to go in the mornings? How late are you willing to stay? How much time on weekends? What are you going to do to help yourself unwind at the end of each day, over the weekends, during breaks, things like that, and really just come up with a plan. Because if we start doing that once we're already overwhelmed, we've kind of waited too long. So that's one thing that's really important. The other thing is if you're looking to prep over summer, to me, the most important thing you can do is really look at your classroom management sort of comprehensively. And so that means, classroom management is more than just like a behavior system. It's all these other pieces. So really thinking about and planning, like what are the procedures in your classroom, defining them, getting them ready to go, planning ways to teach them so that you can be doing that in your first 2 weeks. I like to, personally, I like to have my first 2 weeks pretty much laid out. And the
Mhm.
majority of that is teaching my behavior system, teaching my procedures, practicing with students, um, building positive relationships, kind of looking at that community, my classroom community. And so having activities within those first 2 weeks to be ready to go. And again, a lot of times, we might not even know what grade level we're teaching, or it might change in the middle of the summer. That happens too. But that's okay because you have a general kind of structure of what you want to do. I think that also um, not spending all summer on your decorations is really kind of important. And this is one of those things I say to teachers. I'm like, I know this is sad because there's nothing I love more than laminating and cutting, but um, uh, the decorations are like the icing on the cake, right? That's what the room decorations are. And a lot of times we just kind of skip to the icing, and then we get into school and immediately the first couple days things fall apart because we haven't built the cake underneath.
Mhm.
And so really thinking about that, the first things you're going to do is you're going to, get your procedures, you're going to get your structure, you're going to get like what your absolutes are, you're going to, think of your lessons, think about that, and just get that kind of comfortable for yourself so that you are ready for that. And then come the decorations, because that's kind of the icing on the cake. So over the summer, really being able to focus on those pieces are so important, and they just get you ready to go on day one.
I like that. That's so practical of like that self-care contract. I just can envision that. I wish someone had encouraged me to do that when I was a young teacher because I know I
Mhm.
didn't.
No.
And that's kind of why I run this business, The Recovering Educator, because I didn't learn those lessons.
Exactly,
Suffered.
exactly.
So that's fantastic. So I understand you have a free gift for our audience. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm just sharing with you this really comprehensive um, a comprehensive tip sheet that gives you about 100 different ideas for when you have kind of that really challenging student. So it's not it's great because it's just really quick, simple ideas. So it steps away from just having to set up a big, your full behavior system. That's separate from this. This is really just like, what can you do right in that moment? What can you do in those first couple days to try to see if you can change that behavior or you can connect in a different way? So it's really usable, really easy, and tons of different ideas for all different age levels.
That's fantastic. And we'll give you a link for that. It's in the email. You'll be able to access that. And having that at your fingertips is that's an incredible tool to have. So I just have a couple of fun questions to end our interview. So I'd love to know, what are you reading? What are you watching? And what are you listening to?
Oh my gosh. Well, so the reading part is really funny because I used to be a really big reader, and then I went through a long phase where I could not focus on a book, which was really a strange experience for me. And just a few weeks ago, I got back into reading. So I've just been really reading a lot of thriller, kind of mystery slash thriller books.
Mhm.
And so that's been really, really fun for me. And I'm just like kind of gobbling them up. So that's been really great. Um, well, what am I watching? I just finished Succession, and that was amazing. And so now I'm kind of lost. I have to figure out what I'm watching next. And just about to watch the finale of Ted Lasso too. So it's fun shows, enjoying that. And then listening to, I'm a very big podcast listener. So, well, I'm a Taylor Swift listener, and then a podcast listener. And I actually listen to a fair amount of kind of true crime and kind of politics-y ones too. But the true crime is, the educators kind of joke about how, like, to lighten up their mood, they listen to true crime podcasts.
Yeah. A lot of educators who listen to true crime.
It's very
So,
funny. So yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. I love it. You're actually the second person to mention Succession, I think, and probably the third or fourth to mention Ted Lasso. So I'm like, all right, I really need to check these out. Like,
Oh, amazing, amazing TV. Yeah.
yep. And I'm with you. I love a good thriller mystery for a book. And I try to always have a fiction book going, and I have one right now that's they're tracking a couple crimes in LA, and it's actually
Love it.
written like it was written after COVID, so but it takes place during. So very
Love
interesting.
it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You gave us such practical tips. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you to our audience. This is just one of many of these interviews. So this is the first one you're catching. Let us know so you can catch the rest of them, all filled with these practical tips and tools to really help you be the best teacher you can be and to find that hope and joy again in your career. That's my whole goal. If you're ready to leave education, that's fine. I will support you in that. But if you want to stay, I'm here to help you find the joy and the balance again. And that's what all of these people are here to do for you. And so check out Brandie's website, her business, Teaching Untangled. She mentioned if somebody tells you all you have to do, I believe you have a blog post in there about it. And that title caught my attention. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So true.
definitely.
So true. Well, thank you. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.